Alex Answer here. It is October 3rd in the year 2017. It's been a while since we've done a MGTOW podcast. And, there are some updated thoughts that I have to the reality, my reality, a male living off the grid at the age of 37, going into my second year. There is reasons why I go solo. And that's a way to sum up an acronym that has actually been demonized as misogynist men that have gone their own way. And so there is that which needs to be mentioned right away. Even videos being demonetized in which I have discussed relationships. No other topic has reached more people than my views on relationships. It's drawn a lot of men and women to this channel. My life also has gone through great transformations since that video. Why don't chase the women of today's day and age? And for a lot of people that just don't know, some people have like their own view of reality of how public figures like me are received by the world. Some people really are invested in a particular reality where the world's really much more open or something to that effect. And I can tell you what it's like living in my own shoes. Now, a book will do a better job of that. But when you go on the path of going on YouTube and being a controversial speaker, and you're going really against the grain of even Democrat and Republican, right, mindsets, it really limits not only your pool of the opposite sex for those of us, that are heterosexual, it limits those of us that we would date, but it also limits our male companions or friends as well. This is not just so me going my own way. That is a better way of putting it than in general men going their own way, because this isn't so much about gender. So for those of you that have sent me emails, even Steven, thank you. Thank you for your email. And I've also gone on rants. Thank you guys for letting me rant. I've actually dealt with not female haters, but male haters that became fans of my work through MGTOW, that became jealous of my off-grid endeavors and angry with me with regards to other content. Whereas other MGTOW channels, and even their title may be MGTOW something. That's fine. That's fine to be niche. I'm not niche. Therein lies the complication. Therein lies the personality differences. I'm not niche. Not only am I not niche, I see the dark side to elements of those that go MGTOW into the mainstream men's rights groups on Facebook. Nothing to do with the idea of the group or the name aside, men's rights, right? That's fine. It's the types of stuff and the race baiting that goes on. And I have videos dedicated to that as well that have also been demonetized. And these are like early ideas that I had while living in my vehicle 3 years ago in Portland, Oregon. One of them was even called When White Men Blame Brown Men for Their Problems with Women. I was just speaking off the top of my head, but looking at it from a larger perspective, here we are 3 years later. And it's chilling. It's chilling to see that more real now than ever. So out of the gate, as we begin this morning's podcast, I see myself as somewhat of a spiritual teacher. But I don't claim to be a guru. But I believe that we need to look deeper within for the answers, the inner truth. Some say gnosis. There is a reason why monks have become abstinent from not only sexuality, but think about Kung Fu monks. Do you think it's also in their morale to get wasted and go down to the bar and get in street fights? The modern day trolling wars and attacks is like modern day type of attacks on human beings, where in the old days, they would literally smash a bottle over your head or my head or kill us. And now it's about attacking our spirits. It's about, this psychological war on the internet, men attacking men on the internet, the type of troll-like activity and stalking activity. It's real. And then, you see the experiences others are going through. And some people are thinking that they're being gang stalked. by the government, where in fact I think that they're just dealing with really horrible people in their lives. And they might be dealing with some other supernatural stuff. Yes, hear it outside the box. You get a MGTOW perspective that is not like limited to whatever, I don't know, path these guys think they're on. I mean, just being angry because you're not getting laid, folks, that takes us nowhere but straight to hell. Can I get an amen? How do we take it higher? This is what we ponder here on OTB TV, although this is an audio transmission. I am so blessed by the Creator. I just got to pause. When I went my own way off the grid in Costilla County in the winter of 2012, coldest place in North America, and of course the images of women would come to mind, and the women that I wish were in my life. But see, there was something in going off the grid with nothing into a situation to which some people end up dead. Now, I don't talk about this much, and it needs to be written about, but there was a reason why I went to, and maybe I was guided. I believe sometimes the universe leads us to certain. It felt like my first rite of passage as a man, getting out of the city, and boom, you're in it now, boy. You're in a yurt, and you don't even have adequate firewood. It can have all these dreams and visions and fantasies and desires of those women and that past in your city, but they're not here. You are, with what, a 15-watt solar panel. Broken, I might add. I think I had a few solar panels, but I was lucky to have survived that and to have survived with my mind. Some would argue the other way, but you can also watch my videos that I did record while in that year. Type in Alex Ansary, you know, anywhere from December 2012 to September 2013. And on the YouTube search bar, it'll allow you to bring up all the videos that were uploaded between a particular month and year. Again, so check out November, December 2012 to September 2013. And then notice things get turbulent after that. That's its own story. And all these would be like massive chapters. The cool thing is, when I write my book, I can also quote myself literally or transcribe particular thoughts that were literally put on YouTube. And it's also really cool that, and I didn't even know this till a few months ago, there's a closed caption. That's right, it's got to be some benefit to AI, folks, and the robots taking over. It's putting my words into text. If you go down below, and I heard that it's fairly accurate. It's not perfect. So several things are really instrumental in my own life in stepping back from the old Alex. Going off grid and that experience and dealing with those desires and realizing that my greatest truth to share with my audience was less about here's how I survived, do it yourself. It was psychologically, how was Alex answering, stepping back from his previous persona of actually working out of a studio, not so much for money, it was public access, but a studio to where hell, it looks a lot better than doing it in the back of an RV. We'll just leave it at that. But the Portland experience was just, it became raw in not a good way. Salt on the wound, folks. Infection. So I sought healing, and I sought healing from even being in the same city where there was desire for certain women, and one in particular in which I love very much. And certain things maybe you've experienced that moment where someone says your name and says you're hard to love, the very person that you truly care for, the person you want to be monogamous with. And I didn't mean to get into all this stuff, but something did compel me without planning that I should do a MGTOW podcast with where I'm at now. And just my journey with all this, stepping back from the dating scene in Portland when I was on cable access then. And because I talk about supernatural issues, I may lose some people, but I'm going to go deeper into the thought because of emails that have come in where some of the men are on a deeper spiritual wavelength. When you send me that commentary, and lately it's been more positive. A lot of the negative stuff seemed to be a few years ago. I'm also seeing more positivity from some women. So while my views are the same, I definitely have chosen to not let the social engineering of women specifically become a dominant theme on this channel. Because obviously, for those that have been around that are not new listeners, I've been discussing the social engineering of men. The hater mentality growing, behaviors happening now that I never saw 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Ways in which I've seen really strange behavior myself and warning signs, even when a guy invited me to hang out with them last year in a part of Colorado, then taking me to go, hang out with this friend as they got drunk and they started ranting about multiracial humans. And it's like, how the hell does someone claim to be a fan of my work and I end up at a white supremacist household? I mean, some of you just wouldn't believe some of the strange experiences that I've had when I've met audience members, and it hasn't been all bad, but it's led me to think that for the most part, it's just not safe. That's almost safer to trust a stranger who's not going to pretend to be a fan or friend and then come with some sort of ulterior agenda. I've dealt with a lot of that stuff. For those of you that don't know that are listening, and it's got me. It's like I don't want to end up into a world where I just don't trust anyone because I'm starting to suspect that's part of the agenda too. So I just don't talk to anyone, and there's no comment section at all. And I decided that I would not let harassment from the past shut down the comment section forever. And that's why it was shut down for a while. There's stuff that I've shared about my journey and my life that just normally isn't shared, period, by anyone at any time. That's why I believe that when I do write a book, it's going to be a story like one never told. But for right now, it'll be a YouTube channel with stories, tales, and experiences like that which has never been heard. Certainly not on the mainstream media, certainly not in the rest of the alternative media. And that doesn't mean, right, that I'm super special, but I have my own unique story and information. I'm not going to rip and read information from other people and read other people's conspiracy theories just because some of my information does happen to deal with exposing the archonic agenda. Doesn't mean that I believe everything that everyone puts out there that is labeled conspiratorial or is in the box of conspiratoriology. It's far more outside the box. So, bringing this to center, it is because of my individual nature that I go my own way for most men and women. That it's not specific to a gender. And there are many people that come in male and female form that will present themselves as fans, friends, supporters, potential allies in the future. And then from that, a certain percentage that'll still hear from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Where right now I can count potential real friends on less than one physical hand, less than five, with hundreds of internet contacts, many of them anonymous, which could be someone completely different than who they actually are. And then having to explain this to the audience that may not really realize how much I put myself on the radar, how controversial this channel actually is. Some people just are drawn to it because they found a few videos. They don't know that there's 11 years of videos. There's a period in which and I'm just giving you one example of hundreds. And if I can go back now, I wouldn't do it again. I left, this is right before the off-grid experience by a year, almost exactly. Through the Ron Paul activism that I was very involved with in Dallas in 2011, I and the other guy, we were both concerned. His name is Steven. I don't know if that video is still up. Alex, Steven, go to FEMA Region 6, or if the video's already been pulled down because I used copyrighted music. But yeah, those guys must have thought we were real clowns. We must have been too infected by Alex Jones back then, I guess. I didn't read the NDAA very well compared to what the Denton Center 6 actually was. Nothing to do with NDAA. Man, I wish somebody just told me that right away. But we're all freaked out about Obama and the concentration camps. Oh, Obama's going to put us in the camps. Freak out, NDAA. Well, still in the books today. People should be concerned about Trump leaving it on the books. They don't have much to say about that, though. People that didn't like Obama, but they like Trump. Just be consistent and not liking the police state policies. Thank you. But yeah, we were all upset about NDAA. Obama put us in the camps. Oh my God, he's got to put us in the camps in force. That's so freak out. freak out. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, freak out. Let's just go full blow conspiracy. But see, hey, exciting. We're going to come up straight up on a FEMA facility because I'm thinking of it more like a FEMA facility. FEMA camp, FEMA camp, you know? Not a FEMA camp, dude. It's one of those like World War III prep centers. Like, you don't want to fuck with those folks. Where was my higher self that day? I don't know. Where was the big brother that day? Go, no, you guys probably don't want to do that. You guys probably don't want to do that. Well, here I am with Steven. We're all like walking up going, like, so what is this place? Inspired for some Alex Jones police state documentary or some crap. I'm saying, seriously, dude, you have no idea. We're like talking to a Homeland Security officer whose brother is like brainwashed by Alex Jones. But it's like, I'm not thinking of it being brainwashing. I'm like, yeah, well, so what do you think about NDAA? And at that point, I even sent the video to Alex. The point is being a rabble rouser to a certain degree. I put myself on the radar, and I dealt a certain level of paranoia for the last 10 years, 15 years. You've heard about the term permafry. Well, I'm like, for like 10 years now, just always watching my back. The point where it's just getting old, man. It's just getting old. I want to get my land paid off, and I want to do something else with my life other than always looking for the ultimate truth. Well, that's always going to be a part of me. The truth is out there. Yeah, I want to write more. Um, I let's segue. I want to have some positive experiences when the time is right, with other people, men and women, platonic friendships. I'd like to see consciousness shift. I'd like to see America shift out of the social disaster that is the now. I pray more openly to the Creator to show me a better world than the current one. So I see brainwashing, guys and gals, on the dark side of MGTOW. And I want to thank you for those of you that have recognized the fact that I'm trying to focus more on the spiritual aspect of what we are as souls, men and women. And there are women out there as well that are in their own. See, this is the perspective you're going to hear from me that you won't hear from MGTOW or even maybe the feminists. There are forces of influence and distraction and interference. Check out Eve Lorgan's book, The Love Bite. All of that relates to this. We're being controlled by something else that even controls human sexuality or influences men and women to a certain degree. And that includes hypersexuality and people chasing that and men becoming slaves to their you know what, with their other form of higher consciousness taking a backseat. That's right, taking a backseat while they're in the hunt. See, there's nothing wrong with stepping back from that. But see, there's like an evil trying to demonize men that have gone their own way, that aren't playing their part in the just a number of things, and that are seeing things from a different lens. And some may have some very controversial statements to make that a lot of people don't like. But for people to paint it all one thing and not even recognize, like the modern monk within the modern male, but to demonize the modern male, the modern white male. And this is important for those of you that identify with white to understand. They have a program for each male to demonize. The dark side of MGTOW is people getting racial supremacists with it and not realizing that this is what they've done by design to our society. And when you have less people out there getting laid or in healthy, happy relationships, what do you have? You have racial tensions. And it's like that video I did 3 years ago. It's like, wow, it's like, are we in a prison or are we in a free society? Are people acting like they're in a free society, or are people acting like they're in a prison, running around ready to emotionally shank someone on the internet in the form of the comment section? This is the modern world that we live in. No, no, no. This isn't where I want to go. I want my consciousness to go higher. I want to be liberated from my lusts. I want to be uh, I want to be released from my anger towards others. Um, It's like reach a mental block trying to discuss something How often do you think about what you want to rise above? I want to rise above all my primal human fears and desires, and to truly be able to not only live with less, but in this lifetime, there's going to be a period where I'm able to live, where I practice living without money. Maybe not super obsessively or religiously, but to have that experience and to have an experience where, my time and my energy and the people that I'm with, the focus is very, very different than the current. And I can picture like that, something like that coming into manifestation, where literally all outside distractions are cleared, including monetary, including sexual distractions, including other material distractions. And it gets difficult for some of us to really like discuss this out in the open, right? But these do seem to be taboo topics. And these shouldn't be taboo topics. Truth is out there. Whether it be the off grid or being demonized, or the man going his own way, or things of that nature, or a woman thinking for herself. And this is something that a lot of you just don't want to hear. A woman that may have a baby that's less white being demonized because she has a choice. Oh, oh, we're going to call that love now. We're going to call that conscious, by guilt tripping people because they had a baby boy that, so bring it up here. Oh, my hair's all messy. Oh, that's right. Early in the day here, coming to you from the off grid studio, living off the grid, right? But I'm living in this day and age where it's pretty painful. It's pretty painful to see now, several years into this obsession on a white genocide hysteria, without regard to those people emotionally damaged by being called that, like some sort of birth guilt, social peer pressure to be guilty because you were born. That is macabre. That is macabre. So you have this manufactured racial tensions. It's going to infect relationships. Are there many women out there that have no idea that this type of demonization is going on of men? Or that people read things about themselves on the internet? Because women want a confident man to just step in and ask them out. You got to realize, like, what women don't understand today, most of them, with maybe a few exceptions, is that a person then would have to go through hundreds of women, because most women are going to be impacted by a certain amount of the propaganda and racial supremacy ideology or fears. And I know that what my life has been like in recent years is different than a few years ago. And so I don't really want to get like deep into all that. But I know through my own life experience what is true for me and my life experience. I can't tell you what you had for breakfast. I mean, seriously, I can't tell you what you did yesterday or what your last year was like. Only you can. And you don't know what my life's been like in recent years. But I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, I have seen the internet propaganda and race baiting infect regular society. That's why I live off the grid. And spiritually, I'm interested in my soul. I think identifying with genetics now, I think like I'm part of some sort of a larger soul test for me to evolve beyond all false perceptions of self, to go into a state of no limits. No limits. No, 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 no. No, literally, like some sort of, like it's gotten to this point where all of this is leading towards seeking total liberation from all perceptions of being limited and going into the infinite, going beyond just this perception of even gender, our names, ethnicity, and associating with the soul, which is inhabiting the human body that has and possesses non local awareness. That for some of us, we're waking up now in this movie. Sure, we were born into, and many of you are men, with penises and genitalia, with the body that is wired for procreation. But that is not all that we are. We are more than that. We look at these men, they are not more than their penis, and we see what a slave they are to the material flesh, to material things in their pursuit of a physical woman. And it being, in many cases, not about that woman's value, what is inside, but her body. And we see what this type of lust, this type of sickness has done to many women. All of different races, stripes, ethnicities. I look at these men and I feel so sorry for them. I feel so sorry for them. So weak, so broken. And yet, though, those are some of the men that are desired by many of the women because they're in a pursuit mode of directing their energy. And I can testify that some of the sexual experiences that I've had with women in the past, it was a redirect of my energy, but it was not love. Despite the fact that I kept expecting to find love around the next corner, whether it's physical, right? Attraction, compatibility, combined with, right? Personality attraction, compatibility, combined with, oh, I don't know, the person being single. No offense to any woman listening, but there are very few healthy minded single women that seem to contact me. Married women find it to be safer because I know that they're married. They're married. Hey, I get a little empathy, but it's like I'm always reminding them this is a phenomenon that the single women that are healthy, they don't just send an email or two just see if they can get a quick little response and redirect my energy, but one that is also genuinely on the path. But I'm in a state now of not necessarily being, angry about this. This is not something that is unique to the individual that is here on the earth to spread knowledge and information, that is in a teaching role. In fact, from what I understand, this is pretty darn common for men like me and perhaps women, but certainly for men like me to live their lives where it's centered around their videos or their teachings or their writings. This is not uncommon. We can see this with men that have been on similar paths as I 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. They wrote, they scribed. I have even books from an ancestor and something he wrote 1,000 years ago. On that note, and what I've learned is, and this is what people can learn, and it's played a role, right? We can protect ourselves from the dark forces of this reality to a certain degree, but we can't protect others. So we can go out, we can seek romance. I can seek romance, but if I'm a public speaker who's on the radar, I can't stop someone else from having their dreams invaded, or a woman from having implanted thoughts or hearing voices. That guy Alex is a real piece of garbage. Now, having seen this happen to people and feeling it's in direct response to something angry that I'm threatening its food, I roll with it. I'm no longer freaked out. I no longer feel heartbroken. I no longer feel traumatized by women. I allow them to be what they are. I understand a fair amount of them are going to get the interference and are going to believe some of those impressions. Some of them even come through YouTube. I mean, for years, I've gotten feedback that elements of the audience is spiritually attacked during certain periods, depending on the topic and depending on the energies in the air. This is all things that I've noticed. And so there are periods, for example, in which people are receptive to my truth, and there are periods in which people are dissing it. But I do believe this, and then I'll read this poem that was written by another Ansari 1,000 years ago. When you go up against the dark forces, they can disrupt your relationships and your love life, your work relationships, even friendships with people of the same sex. It can lead someone towards an isolated experience. And ultimately, that's why I've sought to live in nature. Because if I'm going to be isolated, energetic backlash as a result of the stuff that I'm doing, then I'm going to live closer to nature. That's not something that a lot of people even understand. Like I said earlier, there are some people that became obsessed with the channel in an unhealthy way after discovering me solely through MGTOW. Some people develop some really bizarre obsessions, and I became their focus, not the opposite sex. And I saw that as a spiritual attack. I absolutely, absolutely saw that as signs of possession. So when a few years ago somebody was YouTube stalking me, and making obsessive videos about it, for those that have already seen that, I'm stepping back. Why would someone have a fixation on how another man lives his life? Seems like there's something else going on here. And see, there happened to be something else going on with regards to the content. I'm describing men being slaves to these spiritual entities that are living in cities, paying their rent. That's what. Especially those that are waiting for someone to come into their life. Not everybody. I'm not insulting them. I'm saying that I, through my own experience as a male, young male, living and renting for many, many years in Portland, many, many roommates, many, many apartments, many, many years of feeling that all that work went to nothing, that I can show for it. That's where this came from. A hardened young man's life in the city. Okay? Listen, there'll be more in a book. I just don't want to open up like too many Pandora's box. I mean, it's getting really Ghostbusters up in here with the topics and the thought forms. So I know what it's like to feel vampired on by the city. It's like that song, one of my favorites. 'Cause you belong to the city. And, I've always been, had special requests throughout my life by the women in my life to just not attempt to sing. So I will appease the current female. Because you belong to the night. And then it continues on. Yeah, I'm not having any success here with this player. It's like it'll start working when I don't want it to work, or something to that effect. But that really summarizes kind of my escape from Portland, and stepping back from a lot of things at once, from the work experience to living in the grid experience to hoping that eventually, the people in my community, the city I was born in, Portland, but no longer had any family there, that I would feel accepted by a member of the community and maybe have a love in Portland. Something very tribal about that. Oh, just to feel like you're a part of something when, you're basically lived on most of your life alone without family. It does something to an individual. That's another part of my story. I'll save it for the book. But it's like wanting that tribe, wanting to feel accepted in such a supposed progressive open city to feeling absolutely unwanted, and then having to rebuild, I guess, my spirit and start over, and then move out of Portland with nothing but a backpack. Nothing but a backpack when I went to Dallas the first time. And then I went to Costilla County, and the rest is history. Then I went back to Portland, found myself living in a vehicle, teardrop camper, homemade. And then I found myself going back to Costilla County. And then I found myself, here I haven't even completely even painted all this. I have improvements to make here. I'd like to build my first home here on the property. I'd like to grow things that I've never grown before. Some of them are even legal here in the state of Colorado. I really should wrap things up and enjoy the sunshine, but it's been a really rough couple of years, folks. And I don't really feel like I've had real healing with other human beings. And even though I'm speaking to you now and I'm living off the grid, I just want to say my videos have never been against any particular gender or ethnicity. The widespread mind control and social engineering has affected nearly everyone in our culture, in our society. And it's basically the unfortunate truth. And I'm hoping that we can see better years ahead. At the same time, I've seen major warning signs, that have led me to think I can't trust anyone. But I know there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. I know that, I've had to trust people to a certain degree recently to even get a ride to town. I'm going to have to ask someone today if I can get a ride to pick up the starter that just arrived, that they're spending $80 on that. And I'm very fortunate that I was able to purchase this starter. But this is so much more than MGTOW. It is what is happening to human consciousness on the planet. Things that I've been discussing, the things that I've been analyzing. And I'd like to be a conduit for change in a real sense. But it would help me to have real allies and to not be the only man doing it. Dealing with absolute strangers off the street, literally. You know, I'd like to see a reality where there's 5 of us working together in a secure environment, where there's more than one person, where there's basic security, where there are people involved that already know how to grow food. Someone else may be have specializations in communication. Someone else self-defense. Someone else may be a fantastic cook. And that's really what it comes down to when it comes down to situations where you have no meat. And you're literally making like soup, lentils, here are different, survival foods when you mix beans and rice together to get a complete protein. I've talked about quinoa recently, things of that. So when I think about my future and positive relationships that I want to see, it's self-sufficiency. That's what it is. It's not the city. It's not meeting a girl at the nightclub. It's not getting her drunk and liquored up and getting in her pants. It's not the same old stuff. It's not meeting people on Craigslist. I'm no longer the old Alex. And the world, though, is so unconscious that we can go 20 years then, 30 years then being single if we don't go through the standard means of dating. But also, by saying this doesn't mean that I'm available to random people that are audience members that just joined up in the last week or two. That's not cool at all. Uh, Random people through the internet as a public person, no bueno, no good, unless one develops a very deep, profound friendship with someone first that is cultivated over days to weeks to months. Why? Why? To make sure that person isn't playing games, to make sure that person's emotional behavioral response is not over the top, manic, interested 1 week, 1 season, 1 moon, and then somewhere else in a few months. People are very, very manipulative of my emotions. Many of you are fine that are married women. You're totally fine. You need to find a way to understand so many married women have manipulated my emotions and tried to vampire off my ideas in the private messaging element of Facebook. Hundreds to thousands, like real vampires. It's like, talk to your husband. Find somebody else to be your text buddy. If you support my work, try to find a way to support my work. This doesn't like count for everybody, but there's been a lot of people that have seen Facebook as like a video game. Like, hey, I'm bored. I have a lot of time on my hands. I'm gonna like send this guy like 100 messages, and it's like, whoa, At some point, it becomes really taxing to the public person, and that would be me. So I've already gone through that attempt. How do you use the public personality element to enhance, right, positive friendships, relationships? I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, you can be as positive as you want. There are plenty of traps that are out there that men and women covet, like a knife behind their back. Okay, it's a very serious situation for someone like me to deal with. And so, with that being the case, but also being spiritual and believe in the creator. With that being the case, and I'm going to wrap things up now. I put everything in the creator's hands to bring the right people to me. Despite the dangerous men and personality shifting men that I've met, and then women as well on the dating side of things and sense of disappointment and things of that nature. I then just put it in the creator's hands. Okay, I totally accept it then. If I'm meant to live a life of isolation for most humans, for most of my life, or maybe this chapter of my life, maybe things will change in a few years. Maybe people will realize that the content that I've created, right? Because I do stand behind my content. I do stand behind my warnings. I do believe that the ebook that I wrote about solar flares affecting human consciousness is very much overlooked and unappreciated, and it's just kind of shrugged off by today's society. I think in 10, 20 years, though, they'll look back at what I wrote and published just a few days ago on Amazon, link down below, and they'll appreciate this knowledge and information. And it won't just be some internet theory. It'll be a deeper understanding of science that maybe if our world doesn't blow itself up and actually goes in a conscious direction, I'd like to be in those textbooks in 20 years, in 30 years, if we ever do become a more conscious society. We really don't know, do we? But what I do know is I don't put it in AI's hands anymore, right? Trying to reach people, get love through Facebook. Oh, maybe that girl on Facebook will realize I'm a decent guy and will go ahead and throw out the invite. No, no, no more of this expectation. No, it's dangerous. But can the creator bring people into our lives at random moments, whether it be a life or death situation or other? The answer is yes. So maybe you're somebody like me and you felt burned by the world. You're male, you're female, you're this ethnicity, you're that ethnicity. And you're wondering, why, God, why? Why, universe? Why? Have I not met another good person? Because I want to believe. It's like that alien poster, I want to believe. It's like we want to believe that they're out there. We don't want to be monsters ourselves. We don't want to hate men. We don't want to hate women. And some of us have issues with both men and women. Hello! And a lot of it has to do with getting burned by our parents early on in our lives. So we developed issues with other men and women. And we also saw a lot of crazy men and women in our lives. It's not about gender warfare. And I think that there's healing in this for people that have been caught up in the war of the sexes. And that's where I've been really trying to reach out to the women and say, um, if you're listening, first of all, to this podcast, you're more than likely not a closed minded person. But let's just say, hypothetically, if I was, very unlikely a closed minded person would listen this long into the podcast. So, congratulations if you did. There are also some psychopaths that'll listen all the way in, though, just because they just love the sound of my voice but don't like me. Also, a weird element of this matrix. Welcome to Earth. Here's a helmet. So ultimately, I would say to those women that would respond to my old content and early MGTOW videos, you're a misogynist. You don't like women. You have issues with women. And there are some that have been kind of mean in their energy and how they've said that or gossiped about me, about their intuition. Yeah, I've been burned. I'm a little apprehensive. I don't let people just walk up into my boundaries. I don't just walk up and go, hey, I'm Alex. I'm going to shake your hand. I think some women might be threatened by that or me extending my hand. I'm not like super boastful. Hey, it's time for a hug, everybody. Hey, I'm Alex. Nice to meet you. Let me give you a big hug. I literally maintain a few feet from people when I meet them. I don't come up in their face and start sticking my hand in their space. I don't know. I think it's my soul. My soul's different than other souls. I don't feel like I have to do that. I think that elements of our culture are a little bit, hey, let me come up and touch your hand while you wipe your butt. So like I'm actually questioning whether that's really the most appropriate thing to be right up going, here, let me touch your hand. Let me sniff your butt. So sometimes I don't rush up and shake people and people are like, wow, you don't shake my hand? Why? Do you even like me? No, I don't have a weapon. That's where the handshaking tradition comes from, folks. I don't have a weapon. Let me show you right here. So when this person said that, it hurt years ago and made that judgment. And I always knew this wife of a friend, old friend, hated me. But did that really need to be made public that she had so much judgment on my pain? Right? That her intuition and her vibes. But see, it opened up a door that a lot of people do that. and they'll judge a man sharing his truth. And so, in many cases, women will get on board that act like a man sexist programming when a man isn't allowed to share from his heart and cry and talk. When people want to abuse that, when someone does cry and talk and share from their heart, and encourage a gang stalking operation to kick off. I dealt with all that stuff in my lifetime. And it's like when a man shows emotion, that is not accepted by our world. I mean, there are fathers out there that will actually beat up their sons for crying, for showing emotion. And there are people out there today that will maintain this kind of judgment. But I'm not going to be ashamed to share what I've shared, because in the sharing we move on from the experience and we heal. That's part of healing from the experience, is to be able to freaking talk about it and to be understood. Because the goal of talking about it is to be understood. The last thing is for something to turn into an argument. If someone starts sharing their life story, if I don't know what you had for breakfast today, and I don't know what you did yesterday, how do you really know what my life's been like? You don't. So I really see how, to finish that thought, if I was talking to one of those female critics, seeing those videos, there's plenty of videos where I've criticized the programming of men in our society in recent years, very much so in the last year or two. And it gets to a point where you criticize the Democrats, you criticize Republicans, you criticize most men, you criticize most women, the programming. And you're really left with less than a handful of people that you can trust. And see, it really needs to be that way than having a bunch of half friends, that'll turn on me the next day. So yeah, I'd like to see my own change and shift into something better. And that's the note that I'm just going to leave the whole podcast. It's difficult going into all this because it just invokes, a lot of pain. But the truth is out there. The truth is out there that I'm not alone. That many of you are not alone. That's why you enjoy this channel, because some of you are independent thinkers too. Independent even from the MGTOW pack, or women that are independent thinkers that absolutely understand everything that I've been describing, that in no way take it personally. And I've noticed that with elements of women, that now the zombie apocalypse, right, on both the male and female side, has become so evident that there's a little less of this, defensiveness if an element of our society is criticized and they happen to be women. It was a lot more psychotic a few years ago. I would say, yeah, in urban environments, it is. It feels very tribalist based on race and gender, making the workplace very intolerable. But with that, I'm going to conclude this. For more on that, by the way, see the death of the male worker in today's society. But yes, when it feels like mankind, womankind has failed you, it seems like there is only one force left to turn to, and that is the Creator. And many say that the Creator is within. So I would contemplate these things and how our words and our thoughts have power, and we should, in some cases, focus on those things that we want while we step away from and protect ourselves from and develop boundaries from the sabotage energies of our day and age, of which there are many.